Alright everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho Mash. We've got a ton of stuff to talk to. We're going to blast through it as quickly as possible on this Sunday edition, which will be exclusively at YouTube and BitChute. We'll be talking about neutron stars a little bit, as well as the local yellow dwarf. Here it is in 94 angstroms. We see 0 sunspots. Actually, there actually is an umbra right now. It's looking pretty small. We'll show you by the end of the video. It's located down by this active region down here. A very small umbra. If it does turn into a sunspot, it'll be a small alpha class. Barely a pore on the surface. And we've got another alien spacecraft up here that all the insane channels on YouTube can claim is something other than plasma from the corona. We did see a coronal mass ejection as well. And it's not Earth facing, it's actually facing the opposite direction. You can see it coming out this way in sort of a slightly south off the ecliptic plane direction, totally opposite the direction of Earth. Here are the fields, and let's take a quick zoom in on that area where I saw a pore. I think it was this spot. But again, very small. If it does turn into a sunspot, it'll be an alpha class. Here's the 304 angstroms view, and we saw some filamentary shenanigans, which we'll show you in a minute. First, some composite views. This is 211, 304, and 171 angstroms all at once. And this is from the SDO. You can bring up videos like this yourself on the AIA/HMI browse data section. Just put in your dates. Here is the magnetogram and 171 angstroms. This is a great one too, as it shows you the magnetic fields in color, as well as the iron 17, I believe it is, ionized state of iron UV emission spectra. And again, the main zone that we're interested in is this area right here. Probably won't be a sunspot if I had to guess. And here's the filamentary area in the southwest. Looks like a small crown prominence down there as well. A little bit of activity. Yep, a little crown prominence right here. And another indication that the sun is ramping back up in activity. Welcome to cycle 25. Now the radio flux has actually dropped back down to 69. So we're back down below 70 as far as daily values. Smooth monthly values still above 70. Welcome to cycle 25. KP index down to 0. We see a weak solar wind. We don't see any solar flaring to speak of. No proton events to speak of. Here's the real-time solar wind data. And you're looking at a phi angle of 140 degrees. We saw some minor shifts here recently. Here's a little, looks like a small coronal mass ejection strike, where the speed came up to 450 and the density came up a couple protons per cubic centimeter. Nothing to write home about there. Solar wind density currently at 3.18 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 390 kilometers a second. And here you see that weak solar wind shown on the Geospace magnetosphere movie. This is the pressure. Are you under pressure? Well, the magnetosphere is not under very much pressure. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data on that. We try to show it daily when I don't screw up and do something stupid. Next, we'll show you the ground geospace magnetic perturbations coming a little bit closer to home here. And there are those. Nothing too surprising happening here. And we're actually in an indecisive moment of magnetism right now in terms of the heliospheric current sheet. We'll show you the state of affairs with that. And we're expecting to end up in the North Pole current sheet, if we're not already solidly there. Anyway, there's 4 hours of ground perturbations. We still see some power outages here in Louisiana and California. And there's the GOES magnetometer. There's the GOES magnetometer, excuse me. And I think we're getting in some indecisive snapping back and forth between current sheet polarities. And we'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Yeah, so I'm expecting this to smooth out. Really expected it to smooth out already, but we're seeing some indications that the south solar polar field is pretty strong right now. And here's the coronal magnetic field diagram. And if you're wondering what the dates are, the date stamps are in the lower left. I assume you can see that despite our scrolling marquee. And here's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And you can see the Earth's potential field force line just snapping across into the North Pole current sheet here shown in green, as opposed to the South Pole current sheet shown in red. And here's the last image. And it looks like there's some more South Pole magnetism coming through there, either an indication of weakening of the North Solar Polar Field, strengthening of the South Solar Polar Field, or perhaps some activity about to rise in the northeast, which is probably the most likely, as I see an area of plasma density right there out by Stereo A. If you want to see what's going on, go check Stereo A's instruments. Here's a line of sight field plot, which shows you also the B field in blue, nothing to write home about there. And today's Smash Lights will be integrated into the daily space weather. Are you familiar with the term
colloquial?
Well, it's the Merriam-Webster word of the day. It's the familiar term. It's why you call a Band-Aid a Band-Aid instead of an adhesive bandage. It's why you call a Q-tip a Q-tip instead of a cotton swab, I guess. Let's talk about the colloquial term for fascists. And
fascism.
Members of Antifa are actually
fascist,
while claiming to be anti-fascist, as they employ violence to achieve their political ends. Colloquial term for Antifa is fascist. I think it's cute. Now, we normally stream these live to Twitch, and today we're actually just doing it on YouTube and BitChute. Didn't want to do it live today. If you haven't subscribed over there, thanks to our followers at Twitch, twitch.tv/smAsho. It's a great platform. It's where we do most of our live streaming. Yesterday's Daily Space Weather video occurred on YouTube live stream and did not even appear on BitChute. If you're not following us at YouTube, youtube.com/smAsho. MASH has exclusive content, as well as both of those other video sites. Please take a moment to press like and subscribe over there on YouTube. Don't worry, we'll wait. And don't make us angry. You wouldn't like us when we're angry. All right, enough of that. Again, BitChute, bitchute.com/smAsho. Thanks everybody who subscribed over there. Get involved in alt tech, as big tech can't break the internet, but the internet can break big tech. COVID-19 is made in China. I don't know if you were aware. Let's talk about COVID for a quick moment. We've got a vast section on smashomash.com/forum about it. We'll talk about it in a minute. Check out smashomash.org if you'd like to get yourself a souvenir about COVID. Perhaps the I survived a global pandemic so far shirt. It matches our cycling gear, as it's in purple. We also have it in gold, which also matches the cycling gear, and black, which also matches the cycling gear. Anyway, at smashomash.com/forum, we've got a 31-page section about coronavirus. We've created a timeline there by copy-pasting the articles as opposed to simply linking to them. There's a big difference there. Now, we always give credit where credit's due. So anyway, the point is, have hope, folks. Shout out to Jen Bernard Reed for getting this fantastically defined photo of a rainbow, one of the most defined rainbows I've seen ever. It's from Instagram. Perhaps follow me on Instagram. So have hope and have a laugh, as you're still surviving your first pandemic. Leave us a comment if you think it's a scamdemic or a plandemic. There's the large image of that, and what a defined rainbow. I think it appeared on a thumbnail around that time. Let's talk about the word confirmed, and about how propagandists are using the word confirmed to mean unconfirmed. Yeah. So I don't know if you've noticed a bunch of clickbait all over the internet and a bunch of alarmist nonsense suggesting that you do this or do that or don't do this or do that. Well, we're starting to see some issues when it comes to mainstream media, big tech, governments, and corporations, as they are providing misinformation, disinformation, lies, misrepresentation, and frauds. For instance, very shortly after CNN unveiled a fake news story about Donald Trump Jr. About WikiLeaks releasing information to Donald Trump before to the public. And of course they said, we've confirmed that WikiLeaks released the information to Donald Trump first, and then they debunked their own credibility over and over and over again. Have you noticed people on YouTube and people on CNN and NBC and CBS News and BuzzFeed and Vox and all over the internet clickbaiting you, making you scared about stuff that's completely irrelevant, and claiming that, oh my God, it's confirmed? Well, take it with a grain of salt. And if you're like me, perhaps take it with a truckload of salt. Is it confirmed or is it nonsense? Well, if it's on MSNBC, it's probably nonsense. Now, we've got movie recommendations at smashamash.com/forum as well. And thanks for everybody who posted over there. Here's a movie we don't recommend. Conan the Barbarian 2011. Now, this film is terrible. All right? Whether you're a fan of Conan or a fan of Jason Momoa, or you're a fan of anybody in the movie, it sucks. It's about 2 hours long, and it's got one of the worst scripts ever. It's full of CGI nightmarish backgrounds, and it is absolutely lacking. It's actually a boring action movie. It's boring yet gory, lacks three-dimensional characters, and favors CGI over anything resembling good taste. It's got all kinds of famous all-stars in it, like Ron Perlman and Rose McGowan, who plays a villain, and it's one of the only characters that I like in the movie. Jeez. It is a disaster. Do not sit through this thing. It's not one of these movies that's so bad it's good. It's a movie that's so bad it's bad. At least it only had a budget of like $22 million, thank God. Look at the Rotten Tomato scores. Geez, 25% and a 30% audience score. Conan the Barbarian 2011. Vomit on this film. It's worth wasting your time watching Conan the Barbarian 2011. By the way, it starts out in his childhood too, and I've never even seen Conan's childhood depicted, so maybe that's interesting as far as you like comic book canon worried about people. Let's talk about cycling. Now, when I played organized football, I asked my grandfather what his favorite football team was, and he said the Salisbury Falcons, which was the team I played on at the time. And I realized that if you're personally involved in sports, you have entirely different perspectives on them. That said, my favorite cycling team is the Velo Shop cycling team. Here's a video of us riding together several weeks ago. So who's your favorite cycling team? And if you don't follow us on Instagram, you may not see videos like that. Here is the team manager and owner of the shop, Becky Quinn. And, geez, look at that. Endorsed by Marty Nothstein, Olympic gold medalist and 3-time world champion. I thought he was like a 6-time world champion, but in any case, if you haven't checked it out, check out veloshop.net. You can actually get 10% off right now if you put in your email address. Get 10% off your next purchase from veloshop.net. Come have a visit, but don't do it today because the shop be closed. Check out smashamash.org once again to visit the forum, the stores, our affiliate link. We've put up a new item there on the affiliate link. It's the Microsoft Wired 600 keyboard. And it's the closest keyboard out there to the one I currently use. I use a Microsoft 500. Mine is spill resistant, and Microsoft hardware is quite good, as it's not going to spy on you. It's Microsoft keyboards. They won't keylog you. And also, it's got the correctly shaped backspace key, as you can see there. So yeah, check out smashamash.com/affiliate. You'll be directed to all kinds of things like supplements and air fryers and a mouse and bike lights. And it's pretty unorganized right now. Eventually, we're going to have to put this into subjects so we don't just have one list. If you have ad blockers enabled, please disable them for this site or you will not see the links, as they are ads. We even have smashed potatoes and almond flour. Look for some recipes coming soon on the forum, smashamash.com/affiliate. If you're in the market for any of these items, please consider supporting the channel by purchasing them via our links. And here ends another Smash Lights. Let's talk cosmology for a quick moment. How come there's all these diamonds in metamorphic rock layers? Well, is it because of tectonic collisions? Is it because of subduction, abduction, crackduction zones? Well, who knows? Does it throw into question how planets form entirely? Well, it certainly does. The point is, microdiamonds are important minerals because they form in continental collision zones and shown the crust has been penetrated deeper than 120 kilometers below the surface. Now, if that's how planets form or that's not how planets form, I'm not going to comment. What do you think? Do you think planets form in this way through a long process of gravitational accretion, or are there some other factors at play when it comes to planet formation? As keep in mind, cosmology is the study of the origin and structure of objects in the universe. Some people think that only applies to things like distant galaxies and neutron stars, and that, my friends, is a segue. It's not understood how a neutron star could be a thing. Now, one of the things that goes on in the nuclei of atoms is that not all atoms seem to do the same amount of stuff, or it's very hard to measure what stuff those atoms, those protons and neutrons in the nuclei of atoms are actually doing. Some of them seem to be doing more than others. And without getting super in-depth into subatomic particle physics, that's a job for Eugene Bagashov, not for me. But in any case, neutron stars make no sense, as I find it highly unlikely that there is a collection of neutrons so dense that it's just a star made out of neutrons. It doesn't make any sense. And I think a neutron star, like a black hole, is a sort of a figment of the imagination of what you'd call modern astronomy. And keep in mind, folks, modern astronomy is entirely based on the sun. So the idea is that the sun has a nuclear fusion dynamo inside of it is the basis for all of that stuff. Perhaps read the article. It's on phys.org in the Astronomy and Space section. Let's talk about a possible neutron star, as they're cited, Cygnus X2. Now here's the X-ray transients from X2, and as you can see, it's a pretty consistent X-ray source. This is the graph for the last 15 years. And here's the daily graph. You can see the days of 2020 here. Cygnus X2, if you want to look this one up yourself, it's at the Neil Gorell Swift X-ray Observatory. Type in SIGSpace X2, and again, it's a low-mass X-ray binary/neutron star. Is it a degenerate dwarf, or is it a neutron star? Some sort of binary system in any case. And here's an article from 1980 about the radial velocity and so on. Let's zoom in on it from Simbad. And here is the Simbad zoom on Cygnus X2. Trying to keep it in the center as I moved it around. And there you go, Cygnus X2. Is it a degenerate dwarf? Is it a neutron star? Is it a pair of condensed matter objects? By the way, it's a very bright X-ray source. It's got quite a lot of variability. And there it is on the XMM Newton X-ray scope. Perhaps some jets coming out of it there, not exactly sure. Are those X-ray jets, or are they artifacts? You be the judge. I don't want to be the judge. You be the judge. Also an article here for you cosmology freaks, you spaced out viewers, on SciTech Daily about zooming in on dark matter halos, something that I don't think exists. I don't think dark matter is a thing. I think there's no need for it. I think there's a bunch of regular baryonic matter that's not being seen. Because if there's a proton floating around in space all by itself with no light shining on it, you won't be able to see it. There's nothing reflecting and absorbing associated with that proton. And there's a great view of the cosmic web, which, by the way, is not electric. It's a combination of particle physics and electricity and magnetism. Dark matter utterly not needed, as poloidal jets create these sort of structures. And I'm not going to get into how stars form. Guess what? They aren't electric. They're made of condensed matter. By the way, thanks to our subscribe stars and to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Check the links below the video if you'd like to help support us. We've got a lot of things to do in 2020, and times are running out. So thanks to our patrons. Here are our patrons. And we update this once a month, as if you haven't actually paid, you won't show up on the list. You can become a patron also at patreon.com/smAsho. Thanks to our latest patron, and expect to see yourself on there first thing next month. We're still experiencing a slight electron storm here. We're at about 3 or 4 times warning levels of electron flux. There's the 1-year graph. And here's the 7-day graph, and you can see we're finally coming down a little bit off of those highs. Here's the 3-day graph that we normally show. And the forecast is for a small ramp down in this. We don't see too much charging hazard happening. It's mainly in the southern hemisphere. Here's a total electron content forecast, which is a visualization of the entire air column from the thermosphere down to the ground. And it doesn't really take any note of, it's a 2-dimensional image here basically. It will show you where GPS errors. We see a little bit of anomaly there at nighttime over South America. And there's a forecast where we're expecting it to drop down just around warning levels, according to the NOAA forecast. Here's a different slice of the atmosphere. This is just the ionosphere layer. And that'll show you, oops, we're only looking at 6 hours here. Allow me to bring that up the entire previous day. Just give us a minute there. We'll load that up for you. There you go. There's 24 hours of the ionosphere in 1 hour per second sort of temporal resolution, you could call it. Looking fairly normal here on the ionosphere. By the way, we saw some big earthquakes kick off. The largest one on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, an odd place for a quake, especially at a magnitude of, I believe, 6.6. There's the latest image of the ionosphere at 11 o'clock Universal Time. We're a little late making the video today. Here is where things are in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. Mercury making its way back around. If you're up before dawn, you may see a great moon and Mars. Or even if you're up after dawn, you'll see the moon, the Mars, and moon very close in the sky right now. Also, you may see Venus if you're up before sunrise. There's the largest quake of the past 24. It's a 6.6 at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. We saw another significant quake there in western South America. It's a 6.3. Looks like an aftershock of larger quakes. Here's the list of the past 24, 4.2 at Indonesia. At depth, it's a 237 kilometer depth quake. There's that 6.3 at Chile, the second largest of the past 24 hours. The 6.6 in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge came in right as I started to do show prep when I was drinking coffee. It's a 4.3 at Japan. That came in at 5:50 Universal Time here. It's at 146 kilometers. And there you go, there's that 6.6 that came in at 6:51 Universal Time. And let's just check tsunami.gov. I doubt that generated a tsunami. And we don't see any warnings, advisories, watches, or threats. Volcanoes erupting include Coronal, 7,000-foot ash plume there, Sangay, 22,000-foot ash plume there, Ravenador, 16,000-foot ash plume, and Sabancay is exploding, producing a 25,000-foot ash plume. Please don't attempt to pole vault the caldera. We've got some snow forecasted in Montana. There you can see some winter weather advisories there in western and central Montana. Next, let's look at pressure cells. By the way, we've got a massive anticyclone over the western U.S. right now. It's pretty weak, but there is a clockwise rotation happening there. Please leave us a comment if you think we should name it after a CNN anchor. How about the Wolf Blitzer? Let's call it the Wolf Blitzer anticyclone. What do you say? Here's where things will be at 1300 tomorrow, and it looks like Wolf Blitzer's anticyclone is going to be breaking down. It's looking pretty weak, folks. It's looking pretty weak, like the journalism of CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Headline News, MSNBC, Fox, and all the rest. All right, and what else do we have here? How about lightningmaps.org? And It looks like the terrestrial lightning in the U.S. has ceased as the day-night terminator approaches. And we're actually connecting to lightningmaps.org here. There could still be lightning striking. Let's allow it to. There we go. Nope. Perhaps some server problems at lightningmaps.org. Next, looking at water vapor maps for Europe and Africa. Shout out to our viewers from there. Leave us a comment if you're viewing from a different continent. I'm located in eastern Pennsylvania, rather. Part of the northeast, or you could say the mid-Atlantic states of the United States. Here is the Far East and Oceania. Please leave a comment if you're located on one of these comments. Continents. Comment from continents. We see some sudden cloud nucleation there over Iowa. This is the water vapor map for the Americas. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, and you can see some harsh storms associated with that. Let's go back to lightningmaps.org and see if it's resolved itself. There we go. Hey, Chicago, you're in the crosshairs. There's thunder rolling in, and that is a heavy cell. Hennepin. There's thunder rolling in. Yow. Yeah, lightningmaps.org. It's good times. Let's zoom in on that area on the cloud layer. If you want to see the clouds at nighttime, look at the shortwave NASA GOES interactive weather satellite. And check the water vapor map to show you folks in the Great Lakes region where this is going to move. As the water vapor map doesn't lie. The water vapor can't hide from it even if it's not condensed onto a cloud. And this is why we use this when the Doppler is unclear. It looks like a little bit of stagnation happening there, as you have a bunch of dry mass of air in front of the system. It's moving pretty slow, but it's also raining itself out pretty quickly, it looks like. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Let's look at the western world instead. There are the jets of the west. Major anticyclone here. Much stronger than the Wolf Blitzer. Must be the smAsho anticyclone. Just kidding, folks. I'm not a CNN anchor. By the way, thanks to the Smash team for tuning in. Allow me to vanish. And thank the Smash team for tuning in, sharing on social media, etc. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell your science noobs and your science pros. Tell them thanks for flying American Smashways and to keep their heads and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. How about a 131 angstroms view of the sun? Also an intensity gram to see if we still see a sunspot, as I did see one in show prep, and I believe it's right there. And it could be a sunspot. If so, it's tiny. And here's the intensity gram. Let's see if we still see an umbra. And indeed we do. So once again, reporting a sunspot. There you go. That is a sunspot. That is dark enough to count. It's alpha class. It only has one umbra. It's still cycle 25 because the leading field is South Pole polarity. Here's a 131 angstroms view. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your locale.